Yo, happy Valentine's Day to all the Westerners out here. Good morning or good afternoon to everybody else. Adam, how are you feeling today?
Feeling great, man. Got candy for Valentine's Day. Pig got a piece of candy, so we're living the dream down here, man. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Yes, sir. So I'm awaiting Arthur. I just found out his name was Arthur. I had him on my podcast like 3 months ago, and at the time he went by A. And I've turned out heard recently he's actually unveiled his name, or maybe his pseudonymous one. Maybe he's having technical difficulties. I sent him the link, and he just said, "I'm awaiting," and I said, "Here's the link." So whenever he joins the space,
well, remember, dude, you might want to. I mean, sometimes these spaces rug if you are listening. Just leave, exit the app. Sometimes you need to refresh your phone, like turn your phone on and off, and then figure it out. You know, these
hey
spaces.
Guys, good morning.
GM, what's good, bro?
I sent a message to the app was being kind of wonky for me. I had to close it, so maybe he's having some problems.
It happens.
Yeah, I don't know if has he ever done his spaces before? I sent him the Twitter spaces. He said, I don't see a link. And I was like, it's right here.
Yeah, we've done some spaces. It's pretty rare though.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to have him here. Also, everyone who's on the show or the space, please make sure that you retweet it at the top. Maybe then Arthur can see it on his timeline and he knows how to join. He says that it just says reminder set. I guess he probably needs to click on it.
Refresh that page, yeah.
But we'll make our GM rounds before Arthur joins and we can continue the conversation. Chris, man, first, dude, incredible outreach. I've seen you reaching out to all of the Atomicals community. We've got some of the top players in the game. We got Eric, who runs Atomicals Market, Wiz, which is the leading wallet, and Thoth, which I don't know, you're just my source of info, bro. Anything Atomicals, I'm usually following you. So, Chris, how you feeling?
Yo, man, pretty good, pretty good. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. We got Adam up here. We're going to talk about atoms. There's Atomicals XYZ hopping in. But yeah, man, I saw that he did a couple spaces recently. I think he was on Genji with Dogfather and all them over there. And it's just kind of been interesting to follow all these kind of meta protocols popping up. We had an interesting one. I think the last one we did was with BRC 20. That was a fun show. Let's run. So let's run back round 2 and see what we can have happen over here. But excited to kind of get more into the details with everyone.
Wait, before we go on, is everybody noticing? Does everybody have this new clip button down at the bottom of Spaces, or is it you don't have it?
I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, it looks like I got the little scissors. You can't do anything with it yet, though. I'll see if it does anything later in the show. It might. Maybe you have to get a certain number of minutes in before. If you're watching the live stream, you can see it at the bottom, down by the heart.
Oh yeah, dude. Adam's the cool influencer. He gets it. Nobody else. So,
Adam,
so first and foremost, a few things before we start here, because Chris also did bring up something funny that happened in the CBCR C20 spaces. First, Adam needs to play nice here. Second, for those that don't know, Adam and myself are hosting a live stream. So both of us are talking through my account. So I generally have the high and squeaky voice. Adam has a little bit of the deeper
this
voice.
is me. I'm raising my hand. I got the OCM. That's me. So if you hear that, that's me.
Yeah. So we're just making sure that straight and clear. Make sure you guys retweet the spaces up to the top so that everyone can learn about Atomicals. To me, one of the most, kind of overlooked and underappreciated protocols, although it does seem like a lot of the centralized exchanges, a lot of the marketplaces and operators acknowledge it, but retail and the community seems to dismiss it. So we'll dive into that here in a second. We'll get Arthur back here on stage, man. Can you hear us? The creator of Atomicals himself. Can you hear us, Arthur?
Might need to unmute.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I can hear you. Nice to be here again. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, it's fun. It was so funny as I was promoting the show. I was like, I talked with the Atomicals founder over the summer and realized it was 3 months ago. It feels like a year ago. You guys have made such incredible strides. I know you guys just released your AVM. Realms have been taking off. There's a handful of other ARC20s that have begun to get some traction. But for those that aren't familiar with what Atomicals are, can you give us the origin stories of Atomicals and maybe even a little bit of history about yourself that you feel comfortable sharing?
Sure, for sure. Well, yeah, thanks again for having me. I can't believe it's already been a few months as well. I can believe it because everyone wants to see the next thing and they're all excited about the next. So I'm feeling the heat, which is really good. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, wow, it seems like we have some history already. Well, what Atomicals is you can think of it as another meta protocol to create digital objects or digital artifacts on Bitcoin, similar to ordinals. And I'll give a little background about myself and what led up to the creation of Atomicals earlier last year that culminated in the release a few months ago, just to get everyone up to speed. I won't give the full speech from before. You can check out the videos and interviews from before, but I'll give the short of it here. So Atomicals is the simplest way, I humbly declare, to organize digital objects, to organize digital assets on Bitcoin that does not require the overhead of ordinal theory. Now, what is ordinal theory? Ordinal theory is the way to number Satoshis on the blockchain with a unique number, and then you trace through the numbers and kind of treating those Satoshis as a unique identifier. And then we put inscriptions on them, NFTs, and all these other protocols are imprinted on the individual Satoshis themselves. This is I think, very innovative, and it was the first to create NFTs and a numbering system on Bitcoin. However, it does impose certain challenges. And so when I started to originally build on ordinals early last year, I think it was February of last year, almost a year now, that I set out to building a naming system, a digital identity and naming system, which is now the Realm name system. Realm names live on Atomicals now. But I wanted to build this on ordinals because I believe that's what we're missing in Bitcoin, is our own ENS competitor that can stand toe-to-toe with ENS and the other naming systems, but on the native, Bitcoin, the big guy. And I set out to build that in the course of a month. And I was just wrestling with the protocol. Ordinals is really good at digital artifacts and organizing NFTs like for static data. But what I needed was a name system that allowed me to add like DNS zone records or cryptocurrency addresses that you could receive, money at with your unique identity. And it wasn't really geared towards that. And we saw some of that early innovation in ordinals, innovation/frustration with the meta protocols that put on a JSON object, like just a data object, like the BRC fungible token standard, and some of the other protocols emerged as kind of JSON blobs on ordinals to kind of create a state machine to manage data. And that's what I was wrestling with. And at some point after a month, I thought, I'm just going to throw my hands up in the air and build my own thing the way I believe it should be done. And I want to make sure everyone's still here with me.
Yeah, we got you, man.
Awesome. Thank you. And so I set out, I thought, wow, this will just take a month and I'm going to, do something really amazing and everyone will just love it right away. Well, I knew I was up against the big boss of Bitcoin protocols was ordinals, and I have nothing but respect for what the developers, the leaders of ordinals, and all the innovators and creators of ordinals have created, and nothing but respect. But I knew back then that there's going to be more meta protocols because there's, more ways, multiple ways to do the same thing. Some will have different trade-offs. And I predicted back then that BRC-20 would have, challenges with indexing and inconsistent indexer states between marketplaces, and just controversy over that because it was just, the protocol is not geared towards dynamic data and state machines. There's a reason they called it digital artifacts in ordinals because it's not meant to change. An artifact is something you dig up like dinosaur bones or some museum specimen, right? And then you share it around like a piece of art, and that's good. But Atomicals is geared towards dynamic data and updates, and that's the problem I want to solve, was so that developers and builders and creators could create living digital objects, not something that you just create once and then trade it, but something that you can update, like for in-game assets or digital identities, which was the original driving motivation for the creation of Atomicals, was the realm names. And so that's what I set out to build. And I thought it'd take a month or two. I told everyone, yeah, no problem. It's coming out. Maybe that's the only reason they supported me, because they thought I was around the corner. That's not true. They supported me anyways. But, it took 7 months to finally build and launch the protocol. You can say there was some scope creep. It wasn't just a NFT system for tracking digital objects for the Realm name system. I ended up putting in the ARC20 standard, which is a Satoshi colored coin standard, where one Satoshi equals one colored coin. I put that in there after seeing BRC20. It was just way too tempting to kind of flex the protocol for NFTs and digital objects to demonstrate we can do a fungible token. And the name ARC20 is very fitting. And I put that out there with the protocol as well, because my earlier background, and I'm jumping around in timelines here, my earlier background was in research into proof of work blockchains, as well as digital asset standards, and heavily researching the colored coin standards and attempts that have been attempted over the past 10 years on Bitcoin. And I had some research I've done a couple years prior that I knew I could apply to the Atomicals protocol standard. And it didn't even occur to me until I built it for digital identity with realms and objects that hey, I can take that research I did a couple years ago and apply it to the colored coins problem that has eluded people for many years. And I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And BRC is taking off, so people don't seem to have a problem with tracking fungible tokens on Bitcoin. It's only a natural extension that we would then color the Satoshis themselves. So a little bit about that. So the Atomicals protocol is also the world's first Satoshi faithful protocol. It uses the UTXO model, and it tags the Satoshis themselves as colored coins. So think of it like you want to mint some token, you're basically tagging the Satoshis themselves with a T-shirt or a color. That's why that's the term colored coins, where that comes from. And then you're passing them around just like UTXOs. So it's faithful to the Bitcoin model. They can be merged and split and combined. And it's just riding on top of the Satoshis themselves, as contrasted to BRC20, which is a JSON or a state object that tracks the balances that are completely disconnected from the Satoshis themselves. There's advantages and disadvantages I can go into later if people want to talk about that. But one of the key advantages is that we use the Bitcoin protocol as Bitcoin. They're just UTXOs. And that means that each colored coin or each ARC20 token on Bitcoin, it has a certain amount of digital gold content because it contains actual Satoshis themselves. So there's some melted value. You can compare it to like some jewelry or a gold watch that if you melt it down, you retrieve the digital or the physical gold. And that's kind of the analogy with Atomicals. So to wrap it up here, the Atomicals protocol is just I think the simplest and most flexible way to organize digital objects and NFTs and tokens. And the ARC20 standard is, I like to call the Satoshi faithful because it's faithful to the Satoshi coins themselves in the Bitcoin model. And then we have the Realms protocol, the Realms name service, which was the original motivation for all of this, was to create a sovereign, create digital sovereignty in all of our lives so we can finally own name assets. Like you could own your name, like Plus Alice would be the owner of a realm, and she would own that NFT. She could update it with her cryptocurrency addresses. She could host websites or social profiles, as well as even issue sub-realms that she could sell and monetize. So those are the three major areas that all are under the umbrella of digital objects in the Atomicals protocol. And that brings us to today, after a few months of bug fixes and upgrades and tweaks and research and development for the new Atomicals virtual machine that's going to be coming out next.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear about that. Adam, I know you've done a lot of research on colored coins that bring back some memories. For those that don't know, also Vitalik was one of the co-authors on colored coins back in the day. I think you can also make claim that, maybe ARC20 is the first UTXO-based fungible token on layer 1 Bitcoin. There's probably some sort of claim there, but Adam, what are your thoughts on this so far before we dive?
It's like, I mean, we've talked about it a bunch. It's like ideas that are just a little too early, right? Colored coins, although the name sucks. Like I really think ordinals, part of the thing about ordinals is the name is really good. Colored coins is such a crappy name. But the idea, it's so funny how like these ideas recirculate, and when the time's right, here we are. Right. But I have a couple questions, like just from somebody who I heard about it when you guys were launching, but I, really haven't paid much attention. Is this connected with with ordinals? Does it sit on top of ordinals, or is it completely separate from ordinals protocol?
It's completely separate. It's a parallel universe to ordinals. And gotcha. I wanted to build on ordinals, the realm name system, but I just realized it was just too challenging in that form that I set up to build Atomicals. Yeah.
But the way it moves and stuff, the way we track, it's the same model as ordinals, I'm assuming, like, or no, first in, first out, that type of thing, or no?
Yes and no. It's very similar, but there's a key difference. It does, yes, there is first in, first out, but it's not like in ordinals, the first in, first out applies to the individual Satoshis themselves. So if you have an input of, let's say, 1,000 Satoshis, right, the Satoshis in that UTXO, right, in that coin, they're actually, the Satoshis inside that coin are numbered. And then that's the first in, first out applies to that coin. Now, the Atomicals theory is the same concept. You have first in, first out, but it's at the coin level, the UTXO level. So the entire UTXO itself is colored, and the Satoshis are the fragments. So the analogy would be in ordinals, you have like an apple, let's say, and you have like spots on the apple. Those are like the Satoshis, that, you know, the particles of the apple are the Satoshis that the ordinals colors in the apple. So if you want to transfer some ordinals, some NFTs, you got to kind of cut out part of the apple, you know, that contains the colored Satoshis you want, and then transfer them. Whereas Atomicals just treats the entire apple as an entity, and then the number of Satoshis, they're all colored homogeneously. Sorry, I know this analogy with food is kind of making some people hungry, but maybe it's a little stretched, but that's the best way I can describe it. Is it works at the UTXO coin level, and that was the research I did years ago. Was that it allows the tracking to be much simpler.
Gotcha.
Now you don't get this rare Sats phenomenon in ordinals,
sure.
But there's pros and cons to it, right? So
right, and rare Sats thing is a little bit made up anyway, right? So a little bit.
Yeah. So it's just a different way of tracking, and I like to think the Atomicals indexer is more efficient as well, because the Bitcoin indexer itself tracks things on the UTXO level as well. So there's less overhead. It's more efficient.
So there's one novel component of Atomicals, or you could say ARC20, that's unique to the protocol, that's kind of separated itself from things like BRC20. I mean, Adam and I also, and Chris, we talk about this a lot, of how these inefficient technologies still keep market dominance because of this cultural relevance, right? A lot of people hate BRC20 because it takes 2 transfer inscriptions. It's account based, right? It's not in parity with 1 Satoshi equals, 1 BRC20. Whereas here you have the parity, but also you have the invention, or you could say the adoption of something you call Bitwork. Would you like to explain what that is and how unique that is to the protocol, and I guess compare it to some of the other standards like BRC20?
For sure. So a BRC20 came on the scene with the innovation that you can do decentralized minting. I mean, it was done before in different forms on different chains, but the innovation is that you deploy a ticker and rules that say how many coins can be created and how many are awarded per mint. And it was designed to be the first come, first serve. So if there's like ORD, I'll pick on ORD as the first. That was launched, and it said up to 21,000 mints. So anyone that made a transaction that said they mint against that ticker, the first 21,000 were considered mints that were awarded the number of coins, this is really innovative, because this allows like a kind of a provable fair mint, right? Where anyone that has access to, to the node can go ahead and mint and participate. So there's quite a bit of a stark contrast to the old Ethereum token days, where there'd be some allocation held to the team, and it was purely kind of really controlled. Now it's decentralized. So BRC20 is a decentralized standard for releasing or creating coins. So ARC20 actually supports both models. So you can actually issue a fixed amount of tokens directly and then distribute it however, which is really good for regulated legal use cases where you want to issue some supply and you have securities conventions and laws around it. It's very useful in that kind of commercial environment. But the really exciting thing we see with BRC20 is that anyone can participate. And so it was a no-brainer to have ARC20 also allow the decentralized mint. And the one innovation that ARC20 brings, one of the innovations, is the concept that you have to do some token mining to claim that token. So BRC20 kind of democratized access to minting coins, but the people with the heaviest, the deepest pockets could just issue a whole bunch of mints and claim a lot for themselves. They just had to pay the Bitcoin transaction fee, and they just blast the network, and they use their capital to go ahead and just gobble up all the mints. And that's not really so easy with ARC-20 because you not only have to pay the Bitcoin mining fees to get your mint recognized, you have to do something called Bitwork. And Bitwork is a proof of work protocol on top of Bitcoin that uses the transaction hash, the transaction ID itself, as a way to force a minter, force a user to have to expend computing power. And this is configurable by the deployer of the token. They can say, I want 1 second of computing power. I want 1 minute. I want an hour. I want an eternity of time. Whatever range they want, they can calibrate how much energy and computing resources have to be spent to earn that mint. Now, why would we do this? Well, this, first of all, solves the problem of deep-pocketed individuals just blasting the network with a bunch of mints and just paying the Bitcoin fee. Now there's another dimension that people also need to have computers to mint. So someone with 1 Bitcoin worth of fees to blow could not just take their laptop and do this, because they would need to have hundreds or thousands of computers in their control to mint the same quantity. So
yeah, I love this, man. This was what I actually saw when you guys were launching that. I was like, I didn't get myself together to actually do it, but I was like, I love that kind of innovation that you brought to it. Really, really interesting, because we all saw what's going on, right? Kind of like you said, deep pockets or people who were set up to mint large volumes of transactions, were able to grab supply. How did those first mints go for the community? How did you feel like they went?
Well, I did not expect the rush that came in. So there was the first token. I saw that there was some early mints come in, and then I thought, oh, that's cool. It's really nice that people are using this to launch to launch tokens. And then of course the first is inscription 0 is the atom that was put out there for educational purposes only, experimentation purposes. Once again, anyone listening to this is not financial advice, and I do not recommend any speculation. If you want to get rich, just work hard, build a business, and buy Bitcoin. I just say that right now. But for those of you that want to dabble and experiment with novel technologies, these are some of the tokens. And so the way when it was launched, I think it got minted out in 9 hours. Now, that's interesting because at the time the Bitwork miner was pretty inefficient, right? It took about a minute or two for a computer to solve the puzzle to claim the mint. So that means there was 21,000, because that's how many mints there were. There were 21,000 people or laptops around the world mining this thing, and just multiply that out, right? 21,000 minutes divided by whatever. I don't have the calculation here, but that's you can kind of see the scale that a lot of people, especially from the Chinese community, was really keen on building tutorials in the first day and launching it and putting out guides and helping people. That there was this huge flood, this huge rush that came in. I think it was a weekend on Saturday, and everything was minted out 9 hours later. Like I didn't even check on it to see how the Atomicals was doing after launching it, just kind of being exhausted and being grateful that I could ship the protocol. And then before you know it, it was like minted out. The servers are slammed, the public servers that were hosted and some of the other servers people were running were just completely slammed with mints, and it got minted out like wow. And to me, that's when I realized that people really like this gamification. It's a lot of fun. You get kind of a rush when you mine tokens.
Yeah. Like I'm telling you, when I read about it, it reminded me of the Mooncat mint, which happened in 2021, where you had to mine the cats from the moon, basically. And your computer took a minute, 30 seconds. Maybe you got it in faster than that, but it was like you actually your computer had to work for it. And I mean, honestly, this is probably the first time I've heard something like that since that kind of rediscovery in 21. Maybe that's why I got so excited about it, because I just thought it was a really, really cool idea. Really,
so here,
really
let me add some context first, and then Arthur, I'll let you continue. I have here pulled up on the live stream. You could see the announcement of Atom, the ARC-20. So to put some dates on it, this was September 18th, 2023. at block height 808,512. And now if you look today and you go over to just the market cap of Atom, it's 150 million, has about 2,500 holders. And then you see there's 4 or 5 other tokens. Quark is at a $33 million market cap. Saffron's at a $20 million one. And it goes down the board. I'm sure maybe we'll discuss a little bit of that later. But yeah, Arthur, go ahead and close out the statement.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Like to then bring it back. So what the community has done is launch their own other tokens with progressively increasing Bitwork, and that means instead of 1 minute of computing power, the peak was like 65,000 minutes of computing power per mint, which is ridiculous because that means that whoever put out, like I'm going to say some tokens, they're not an endorsement of anything, but you look at Quantum. Clearly, that was a GPU mined invention, and kudos to the team that did that because it is beyond the reach of the CPUs. So in between, there's been progressively increasing Bitwork energy levels from Quark, which is a community deployed token with 6 digits of Bitwork. In the original protocol, that would have taken like the original version of the miner. That would have taken about 3 to 5 hours to mine a single mint. There was 500,000 of them that people minted over, I think, there's a few days or a couple of weeks. The largest mint ever. And then there was Sophon. There is Sophon. There's Electron, Neutron, and Electron. You see, there's a lot of buzz these days because it was the first like high energy level other token with 7 Bitwork digits, which is insane.
Arthur, the live stream, if you look in the comments, it's literally 1 million Electron shills right now. So you got the degens on Electron.
Yeah, and once again, I'm going to stress here again because for everyone, this is all an experimentation, and there is no speculation, no investment. Once again, I'm just going to reiterate that to everyone. I'm just sharing this from a scientific, educational perspective that the Bitwork economy, we can call it the hash market, has been adapting and growing, and the community has optimized the miner. It's literally 500 times faster and more powerful than it was when we started four months ago. Like it would have taken days to mine something with 6 digits before. Now you can mine that in less than like 20 seconds on a lot of these marketplaces, and so the energy levels keep going up with the different tokens. They've demonstrated that the community is deploying computers, and we have tokens now with infinite mining. So not only do we have or perpetual or infinite mining, that you can have progressively higher difficulties, and the emission of the token is linked to the energy levels expended. So that's not just a one-time distribution like BRC20 or the ARC20 of the past. You can have a continuous emission up until basically it's impossible to mine, which when you think about it is kind of like what Bitcoin itself is, except Bitcoin, it has the halvening every 4 years, and the proof of work is what keeps creating new coins. Whereas with the ARC20, the difficulty keeps going up to infinity, and there's no halvening, but the fact that it keeps going to infinity effectively means that there is a hard cap to these tokens. It's a thermodynamic limit. And so, yeah, just to answer your question, the community has really taken, I'm really grateful for all the contributions to GitHub to optimize this from a single-threaded CPU miner to a multi-threaded beast. And the research that some of the different scientists, we'll call them, have done has been remarkable. And my hope is that the next step is GPU miners come out of the shadows. We all get access to GPU, tools of mass creation, I'll say, and that we can then achieve really, really high energy levels. And I think this is important because then it mimics the security of the Bitcoin network itself, but as like a layer 2 or an overlay protocol on top of Bitcoin that allows us to substantiate value, not just with mining fees, but also with real energy usage, so that we can then create interesting proof of work based systems. And a Bitwork wouldn't be complete without once again a shout out, once again a big thanks to Bob Bodley for creating that term. He had a post talking about GPU and CPU mineable tokens before, and once I saw his post, and We plucked that wonderful name that he coined called Bitwork. We plucked that out of the air and applied it to this proof of work mining engine on Atomicals. And so the name is very suitable. And we think that the Bitwork protocol itself could even stand alone. And we see some other meta protocols playing around that are just using Bitwork itself as a proof of work mechanism. And once again, it's open source, and we highly encourage the ecosystem to use Bitwork. Of course, we think it's best for Atomicals, but Bitwork is a powerful tool that we have in our arsenal to bring back all the proof of work and all the GPUs onto Bitcoin.
Yeah, proof of work is beginning to have its day again because of inscriptions and Atomicals, and it's making its way down the board to some of the other UTXO-based blockchains. One thing I've noticed with the community that surrounds Atomicals is a lot of it's actually retail miners who've been, probably somewhat priced out to the industrial mining that now surrounds Bitcoin, right? To mine Bitcoin, you need now essentially millions of dollars because of the power costs. But some retail miners now, they have a new opportunity in a more gamified fashion that doesn't just run up against these large industries of scale. I'd like to start going around the speakers and get some responses to some of these questions. Thoth, I'd like to start with you. You're somebody who I've noticed tends to, I guess, lead with Atomicals. It seems like it really aligns with your ideology. What is it about Atomicals that's really attractive to you, that's really led you to become like one of the community leaders, at least from my perspective?
Thanks, Jake. Well, me and A have some history, I guess, and we have a good relationship. And I guess I would consider myself kind of like the first community member or like fan of Atomicals, where like, A was telling me about these things like he just told all of us, a very long time ago, kind of when Ordinals was just getting started, and even before a lot of these bugs transpired, such as like cursed Ordinals, for example, and some of the indexing hiccups. And I've kind of over time I've come to see A's prophecies be absolutely true. And so
prophecies, woo! Those are high words, man. You got a lot of pressure on you, bro. You want to keep your name private, right, bro? That's a lot of pressure. Prophecies, woo! Sorry to cut you off, man. Go ahead.
I mean, from our perspective, it was like we knew some of this would happen based on ordinal theory and the tracking of Satoshis and just the efficiency of what A was building and, the reasoning behind it, very simply, and not in like a political way. We completely supported ordinals. We did not fade it. We've been successful in that realm, for lack of a better term, as well. We support everything on chain. It's not really trying to usurp that in any sense. It's more like we are like just passionate about Bitcoin and like proof of work, obviously, and staying true to those on-chain methodologies, I guess, and just staying true to Bitcoin itself and building something that is as close to Bitcoin as possible. And the work over time has just been very inspiring, and yeah, I'm all about it. But I'm all about everything on Bitcoin too. So I support a wide variety of things. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I always enjoy taking a community perspective, and also that you're community member number one, right? You've been there. Well, also seem that Arthur from beforehand. So really cool to see that. Dogfather, man, one of our favorite regular guests and co-hosts. I haven't seen you in a minute, bro. What's your thoughts on Atomicals?
Hey guys, yeah, GM. So pretty cool day today. Valentine's Day with the green candles. What else do you want? I hope I haven't missed this quite obvious question. So please forgive me that I could not listen in all the time. So it's like a free day with the kids and the family. So yeah, just a very obvious question. I know that Atomicals are relatively simple to what Casey plans with runes in terms of like not being on the ordnance envelope and being UTXO-based. So what is the main difference between the two protocols once runes are out? I mean, how can you basically pitch your protocol once this huge new competitor comes out after the halving?
Hey, that's a great question. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate that. Well, this is maybe I don't think I'm going to give you a perspective here. I think I know that Runes was launched as a response to Atomicals. So we have the tweets from Casey and others that analyze the Atomicals mints that were in the mempool. They looked at the protocol. They saw that it was CBOR as the encoding instead of JSON, the much more efficient and flexible CBOR encoding, which is what Atomicals use. It was the first to use. And you could see them discussing the proof of work and the token tracking on Twitter. There's a thread in analysis. And it was only, I think, 5 days after that exchange they had publicly about, that's interesting. There's a new token standard that's ARC20. Well, then that's when they announced Runes. It was like right after. So it's really a response. So Runes was announced after. Now, just because Atomicals is first, that doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day, right? If you have a better protocol, you have a huge following around Runes, then that's all that matters. And I do think Runes brings very interesting innovations, but I just want to kind of just give a little backstory for everyone that Runes is really, I mean, other people can corroborate this, and you could just corroborate the social media exchanges, that Runes is, I think, the response when they saw the writing on the wall, right? Like BRC20 has it's the first is first and massive market share. Once again, amazing stuff going on there, but a formidable competitor has emerged, right? And if Runes was not launched, there would be, let's just say that there's a real problem on their hands, right? Because ARC20 is I think a very elegant protocol, and it has gained traction, and so there had to be a competitor emerge, and it was a very smart, astute business decision for them to go ahead and create Runes as a response. Now, what do we do about this in the future? Well, this is an interesting question, and no one can predict the future, but with what is going to be possible with the Atomicals programming language and the virtual machine, we're going to be able to do very, very interesting and completely custom things, like custom rules for the creation of ARC20 tokens. So not just minting and trading and hope that some utility can emerge, but actual programming logic that can go into these coins for the minting, the transferring. You can imagine, a game token that responds to certain rules, or only being able to create tokens if certain conditions are met, like maybe locking up NFTs or locking up Bitcoin itself to mint a token, and then that's the way you can create tokens. Just really, really creative stuff is going to emerge. I haven't seen anything like that from Runes yet. Perhaps there will be in the future, but I think we have some surprises for the world. I know I do, and I can't wait to share that. And time will tell what's going to happen with the marketplace. I think they will coexist for a while. The best technology does not always win. It's a lot of time it's the first. A lot of time there's just completely different factors. So time will tell, but I do think for at least the medium term, there's going to be space where you have multiple competing standards that are going to be able to coexist and they're just going to kind of vie for supremacy and mind share. And we're only going to be able to see it in in hindsight a few years from now. But I think in the next year, especially by the halvening, there's going to be a lot of frenzy, a lot of excitement around runes. And then it'll be kind of like back to business, right? It'll be just like, oh, okay, great. We have, oh, right. Okay, now we can swap them. Okay, now let's go do what's the next step. And so I like to think I'm thinking about the 2-3 steps ahead. And hopefully those 2-3 steps ahead are further than everyone else. But that's the exciting part about this, is that I'm excited for runes because we're going to all learn from each other. Just like the creation of runes is in a large part from the learnings of Atomicals. There's just a beautiful feedback cycle, and this applies to the stamps protocol and pipe and the others as well. So shout out to all of them and all of us that are creating and pushing the industry forward, because we're all on the same base data tape called Bitcoin, right? The base proof of work signal. So we're all going to, I think, succeed by working like this competitively and cooperatively.
Well, we are getting bombed. People want to know when ARC20, when Electron on Binance. We are just getting like
we're getting raided. We're getting raided.
We're getting raided by your Electron groups here on YouTube.
But Arthur, actually, I want to note something. So what you're kind of speaking on is something I've been kind of discussing over the last few months, is a theory that I have about fungible tokens on Bitcoin. I call it kind of the village theory, where because Bitcoin lacks standardization, because you have to have a high degree of first technical understanding, but creativity to create these fungible standards, they all kind of satisfy different degrees of, this blockchain trilemma of, scalability, decentralization, and security. And then you have these other layers, right? Like Bitwork mining, whereas stamps is more, right, satisfies this degree of permanence. And so I kind of have this idea or this theory that there's actually probably going to be dozens of fungible standards that exist going into the long-term future. Yes, you may have, 2 or 3 that kind of cannibalize 80% of the market share of all fungible tokens. But I think there can be a lot of these little villages that exist and have a high degree of success, and they don't need to go to, multi-billion-dollar market caps, because these communities are here and they're using these fungible tokens for a different purpose, right? I know speculation kind of leads and drives it, but there's always something a little bit different there. I do have one question, then I'll pass it to Chris right after. So Atomicals is the only other fungible token standard that's listed on Unisat, and Atomicals also gets a lot of attention from these centralized exchanges and research departments like Binance. What is it about Atomicals that the institutions of the crypto space seem to be gearing towards or finding more interest in Atomicals, whereas retail seems to be, I guess, dismissing it or maybe even overlooking the idea of Atomicals?
Well, it's a good question. I asked myself, and I wonder about this. And well, I think we can look at there's the technology and there's the community. And so I think the community of Atomicals, it has its, and part of the village, right? There's a neighborhood, we'll say, a very big neighborhood that the Chinese community it was really instrumental in understanding and building out the educational materials, as well as contributing to technical know-how and guides. So there's a really strong community that's kind of partial to Atomicals. I think that's a key part, is that our community, our neighborhood in the village is very strong, very well connected, very intelligent, and well-meaning people. So I think that's part of the success is understanding that there's something really valuable in the technology, and that's the backing of Satoshi. So I think larger institutions, larger markets are interested in Atomicals because, this is speculation, my speculation here, they're interested because it's got the Satoshi model. It's got the colored coins model that people have talked about for 10 years. It's not just a JSON object. Sorry to say it like that. It's not just a a made up quantity. It has to be grounded in something substantial, digital gold, right? So Atomicals is the first protocol to actually be backed by Satoshis. And so I think that's interesting for larger players because they could create a token, they could create a loyalty points that's backed by any quantity of Satoshi. And the more they back it with, the more digital gold is part of that token, right? So it's not just completely imaginary internet money. It's internet, it's imaginary internet money backed by the imaginary internet money of digital gold of Bitcoin. So we at least have that second layer there that buffers us. So I think that's part of the interest there because there's a novelty and like kind of, I think, an elegance to the protocol itself, and coupled with the community that recognizes that there is something special about this, treatment of Satoshis as first class citizens themselves, and not just using Bitcoin as a data tape, like in the case of some other protocols, but actually using the Satoshis as an integral, inseparable part of the tracking and management of the tokens themselves. That's what I speculate is what's probably interesting. And there's probably the buzz around Bitwork and just how the community is now mining tokens of Bitcoin. I think there's also an element of that that's very interesting. That's never been done before. So these are my speculations. I have no insider knowledge and no knowledge of anything, just to declare let everyone know that I'm just my personal opinions.
Dare we say ARC20 has intrinsic value, and it sounds like some nostalgic value as well, right? Because most of the exchange operators were OG Bitcoiners, so there's some sort of relatability there. Chris, now after hearing, Arthur talk and some of the community members over the last almost hour, what do you think so far, and what questions you have?
Yeah, definitely. Just really great job so far to Arthur for kind of offering a great kind of broad-based overview of the protocol. It was really, really good to hear you speak. It's been awesome kind of following along. And we talked to a lot of these protocol founders, and you're definitely one of the most kind of detailed and easy to follow. So thank you so much for a great explanation. And then kind of to piggyback off of what Jake was saying, I was thinking the same thing when I was setting up the show, kind of looking further into Atomicals. You seem to be on the radar of all of the major exchanges, huge players, and then the general community is definitely a bit more under the radar. And for the community that does exist, a lot of it's just kind of further east. And it seems to be a lot of the case where a lot of these new meta protocols are kind of Eastern focused within their communities. Why do you think that is? Where do you think the disconnect might be between kind of what we do on the West and where maybe some of the Chinese or Eastern communities find attractive?
Wow, that's a great question. And thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. I'm glad I can explain this at a high level and to share with all of you now. That's a really good question. Why is it on the radar of the, let's say, the bigger service providers and towards the East, not the West? I don't know. I don't know. There really is, I think, it could simply be historical, right? Historical coincidence for how things grow and evolve. It just naturally is going to have its own factions and interests. And by the time, Atomicals came out, and there was a few other meta protocols, and so it starts to get more and more crowded in this village, right? And maybe people kind of draw lines at their in the neighborhood, so to speak. But I don't know if there's anything intrinsically about Atomicals that appeals to certain demographics. I'm sure there is. I just don't know what they are. I think it's definitely very interesting. Very interesting to see a lot of coverage about the other protocols, and then there's not even a mention of Atomicals but then you actually look at the market capitalization. It's like a dark matter. Like literally, there's like a dark matter or a dark energy. It's just like not accounted for. It's just a tremendous amount of value in the Atomicals ecosystem, right? We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars of growth in just the value of tokens themselves. I think a lot of it could also just be the approach to marketing. I just humble myself and say maybe just the other founders and other protocol creators just do a better job at marketing and outreach. And I got to be honest about that. And there's definitely a lot to be said about it, because I really like the stuff that they're doing. And I'm just, just going along in the trenches here and hoping to build something that I really want to exist, and hopefully that more and more people from the East and West are going to find it really admirable and something really useful, that they're going to be able to expand beyond their neighborhood boundaries and then look at, this Atomicals, we really should stop fading that, because now they got something really, really cool. It's no longer something that you can just kind of ignore. Now they can make room in their mental model for their loyalties to the existing protocols and their existing communities, and also expand further. So I think there's a number of factors and a number of possibilities that will grow the pie, and I think we're going to see it reach out to to a larger worldwide audience soon. That's my hope.
Before we get to the hands, we've had this question pop up a couple times. Ricardo in the live stream's asking, can you explain to us what the burning process is like?
Yes, the burning process. Do you mean the minting itself, or how you mint tokens in a ARC?
I'm assuming. I mean, we've had that. I've seen this come up. Maybe they're translating it wrong. How token auto burning works.
Sure. Token. I'll answer two ways. The first way, I think they're referring to how do we mint, how do we inscribe a token? So the way it works, just in a nutshell, when you take a look at a transaction ID on the Bitcoin network, look at the first few digits. It's like random, like hexadecimal digits, right? Like A, B, 1, 2, whatever, 7. Like there's some random digits, right? And the entire transaction ID is just a random SHA-256 hash. So Bitwork is just the realization that we can force a predictable amount of computations by restricting the first several digits of the transaction ID. Well, how do we restrict it? Well, when we create a mint transaction, there's a field called Bitwork in there that specifies how many digits must match for the transaction to be valid. So if you want to enforce, let's say, about 20 seconds of computational time on a laptop, you can set 6 digits. If you multiply that out, 16 base, because hexadecimal is base 16 to the 6th power is, I can't remember, 256 million something. So that means, just like Bitcoin itself, right, the process of Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin blocks, is a random process where miners are competing to find a random block hash that has a certain number of zeros in front of it, right? And they're the first to find the next block hash, they get awarded that block and all the fees and the coins awarded in that Bitcoin block that was created. Well, Bitwork's the same way. It's like you're mining, you're churning through these random numbers until the first set of hexadecimal, the prefix on the transaction ID matches what's specified in the mint rules. And once it matches, they broadcast, then the indexer just simply has to check, oh, what is the Bitwork prefix string that has to match? Oh, it's these 6 digits. Oh, does it match? Yes, it matches. It's a valid mint, which is an irrefutable proof of work expenditure, right? Because you don't just randomly match the digits. It had to go through, however many millions or billions of hashes before you came up with that prefix that matches. So that's the process of minting. It just basically increments a random number until we match the prefix of whatever digits they created for Bitwork, which is analogous to how Bitwork miners have to match the number of zeros at the front of the block hash. Exactly the same concept. The format is just different. I think that's what they were asking.
That makes total sense, and I actually love that. That design is amazing. I think WizWallet had their hand up.
GM. Yeah, Atomical protocol. We have been building since the very beginning, Arthur did a very good job, bringing down all the technical detail to the audience. We want to circle back to Chris' earliest question regarding why the East, the West, because majority of our team members based in Asia. We actually seen at the very beginning how the Asian community really picked it up and gone viral. There are many reasons. From our perspective, I think the mining aspect is actually, if it's not the most, but at least one of the top 3 element contribute to the viral. Because as you know, in Asia, the retail have this long-standing history of mining, from Bitcoin to Ethereum to like some other POW coins. So when Atomical just launched, I remember in the social group, so many people like, oh yeah, download this Atomical JavaScript, you run on the command line, you can see all those tutorials flying along, and people like really go and of course, Atom get me now very quickly, but there are some other coins as Arthur mentioned earlier. And actually, I share a blog post, Twitter from one of our user. It's in Chinese, but we already translated. Basically, he talked about mining on their computer, reminding running Bitcoin like Halfini 15 years ago, right? So Halfini still have that tweet 15 years ago running Bitcoin. So that kind of give the retail user again, the kind of sensation, the excitement of running using your home computer to mine some coins. That thing I think really taken off. We also we noticed at the very beginning the user are kind of technical. They want to get their hand dirty. Even they don't necessarily have that ability. They kind of rely on their friend, rely on the community. So that kind of get really viral. And later on, of course, other their friends, the DJ more come in, and also infrastructure builder like us, we lower the entry barrier. We make the mining process as part of a wallet, so we can use our wallet in the Chrome extension, and we also make a lot of improvement, the multi-thread and all that. But I think the Bitwork definitely is one of the interesting attribute to contribute is why this is getting viral. And the second, actually, I think they also have some. We talk about this, the color coin aspect, Satoshi faithful, and because also in Asia there are a lot of, as I mentioned, early miners, Bitcoin miner. A lot of the still today the Bitcoin will, they really trust Bitcoin. For ARC20, the predecessor is ARC20. This kind of meme coin on Bitcoin, people understand. Oh, finally we can using the set to have a fun, like a casino. However, ARC20, because the color coin design, it actually have the intrinsic value. Basically, one ARC20 token is backed by one Satoshi. Just like you carry a $101 bill, go to a casino, it's Bob's Casino, right? Bob, take a stand on the $1 bill, and you can pay in the Bob's casino. And somehow, if Bob's Casino get bankrupt, for other protocol, you can actually go down to zero. But if it's because it's on ARC20, you still get your $1 bill back. So with this, people, it's kind of difficult to wrap your head around, but think about this, try a couple of times, and also look at the wallet, right? So you actually see your ARC20, it's actually Satoshi. You have, like, for example, 1,000 atoms is 1,000 Satoshi. 10,000 SOFR is 10,000 Satoshi, right? So basically, you have some intrinsic value. With that, people kind of understand, okay, this is not only just a meme coin. If at the end of the day, the casino goes wrong, I can still have my Satoshi. So with these two aspects, we noticed, the community kind of like, okay, we can both have fun, going to casino, go to different meme coin, but also this protocol really faithful to the original design. So I think these two aspects kind of contribute why this is getting really popular among the kind of, we would say, the opinion leader, the KOL, and then start getting more adapted. Of course, there are some more work we need to do. For example, more marketplaces and also the major exchange wallet. We'll also share a little bit alpha. You guys talk about earlier a lot of the exchanges. We won't name, but with wallet, we're actually working with some of the big name exchange Web3 wallet. So I think one word I can mention is Bitget. Bitget, BITGET. Bitget, they have their Web3 wallet. We are working with them. We're providing the indexing services and also minting service. They're going to launch it pretty soon. And also our OKX, they are going to support ARC20. They already announced this, that they're going to support the ARC20 token standard provision. Actually, we know that the engineer working on this protocol really, really well, used to work in our team as well. So all this big exchange, they kind of understand this is definitely have is potential they want to support it. And in the probably next a month or so, you will see more central exchange. They all have their own Web3 wallet. Their wallet was first supported, and they would probably see a lot of data, and then later on they probably will list in their exchange, just like how ERC20, OD, and SET get listed. I will stop here, and happy to answer more questions. But just come back to Chris' question.
Thank you, WizWallet. That's a very detailed response. Yeah, so intrinsic value and nostalgic value seems to be backing it. Some even on the live stream said that they like getting their hands dirty mining. It brings them back to the good old days, which is exactly what you had said. We actually have two builders on stage in the Atomical space. We have WizWallet and Eric, who's a part of Atomical's market. One final question for WizWallet, and then I'd like to go to Eric. For those that are interested in Atomicals, how do they go about downloading WizWallet and anything relevant to WizWallet that users should know before they do download the wallet?
Yeah, definitely. So definitely use a wallet that support ERC20 tokens. At the moment, it's only BizWallet and Unisat. These are the two wallets support ERC20. And for BizWallet, we have a Chrome extension, and as well as iOS and Android app. And the Unisat, they said they're gonna launch mobile, but it's only available on their Chrome extension. Of course, as I mentioned, all major exchange, the Web3 wallet, they're working on this ERC20 support. They're going to launch it in a month or two. If you follow their Twitter, you will notice that. So that's very important, because how basically ERC20 is kind of rely on the color coin. If the wallet doesn't understand the color coin, doesn't understand ERC20, and if you send Bitcoin transaction, it could accidentally send the UTXO contain the ERC20. This happened in the past because there are some user they use BizWallet, although they have their same secrets imported to, let's say, Sparrow or other Bitcoin wallet, and if they minted ERC20 and BizWallet, however, they send out the same wallet to other wallet don't understand ERC20, they can accidentally send out the UTXO. So that UTXO will probably go back to the miners. So that is something to really pay attention to. Only use the wallet that support the ERC20. At the moment, it's BizWallet and Unisat.
Awesome. Thank you, WizWallet, for that. Now, Eric, I know you had built Atomical markets and were involved. I know there was some hiccups along the way. Tell us a little bit about your experience of operating a marketplace for Atomicals. I know there's some differences and technicalities, obviously, like we've discussed, and then maybe some cultural ones as well. Just give us, your detailed experience on operating it.
Yeah, Jake, thanks for inviting me up. It's been a ride. I'll touch real quick on the wallets, since Wiz mentioned that before I dive into it. We experienced that at the beginning of the market. Someone brought up burning because you can see, total supplies of Atom and such. And that was people diving into a brand new protocol, probably not doing all that research, right? These are UTXO-based versus ordinals, and you're using X versus Unisat when they didn't support at the time. And those got sent off and burned. So yes, always please use a new wallet design for the protocol. So in that regards, it was, as you know, Jake, I'm not like the giga dev on our team, right? With Ordifine and proof of work that we work on, right? So I got to give Lazo that big credit. He talked a lot with Arthur building this, and Arthur was amazing through that process. Him and I we had a little differences at the time, but that's part of new protocols and bringing it to the communities, right? But there's Arthur's been absolutely amazing, and someone I look up to, obviously, for information when it comes to Atomicals, and I'll throw thoughts him out there as well. I can't keep up. That guy gives me so much information on what's new at Atomicals, and there's quite a few builders that are out there, right? You don't get to see everything, but man, it was back to that, Jake, right? So Lazo came at me and he's like, bro, this was literally early in September. He's like, we're building on Atomicals, and I'm like, all right, some of these docs, what is this? I got to understand this stuff. So that, as Arthur brought up in the beginning, right? When that first was created, nodes were crashing. So we experienced, I think, the brunt of that stuff when it was new, right? We had to launch new nodes. Nodes were constantly filling up. People are, why is the marketplace down? I can't trade these coins. Things like that. It was just growing pains with a protocol that really took off. We weren't expecting that, when it did that, right? So, because you mentioned some of those hiccups along the way, right? There was the opportunity issue with the signatures in the wallets, and it affected all the marketplaces, right? And we refunded all those people, all the Atom that was lost. They received the Atom back, and it was. But learning curves, right? You're not perfect, and to grow and succeed, I think you need to fail in some areas. And that was a fail, right? But it was also a big learning experience. For us, obviously, build the market. But back to that, right? We use servers that never had issues for us, and then things were so lagging with the amount of traffic. And you mentioned East and West, and a lot of it came from the East in many countries over there, where the West is still lagging behind as far as analytics go for understanding this, right? And I think the West is always behind in the East in some of these new protocols, just from analytics and things that I see. But yes, a lot of traffic is in a lot of Eastern countries. You can throw Turkey and France and India and Vietnam and a lot of other those ones right up there. I mean, we were experiencing when the protocol was first launched, 5,000 plus users a minute, and a lot of that data is shadowed too. People will block that, so you don't see those true analytics. And Jake, it was rough. You're a good guy and a bad guy, man. Hey, Eric, the market sucks because it's lagging, dude. Look, you think I want it lagging? You think I want it down for you, right? You think I want to get DDoS? You think I want to have to block the USA so y'all can trade because they're shooting 6.5 million bots at us at a minute? No, I don't want to do that shit. No, I don't want to lose my sleep, right? No. So you know what I mean? Like, there's good and bad. Eric, you're an asshole. It's like, dude, yes, I want it to lag for you, bro. We're trying, so I don't know how many times we upgraded that server, right? And then, there was a shift that made news articles, and unfortunately, it happened right around the time of the incident happened with the whole Atom thing. But that was actually in motion before that. But I'm not controlling the marketplace anymore. I'm just silent behind the scenes. There's a big team involved behind the scenes with the market, so kind of shifted leadership roles in that, and we are focusing more on the Ordified side with that. But I still talk with that CEO and the team closely, still follow Atomicals and heavy involvement. I really wanted to be that founder that kind of like Arthur, like, I don't own anything on this. I just want to build for the community and build tools. And I did degen, to be full transparent, once those things took place. I was like, I can't not have a bag of Atom, right? So that said, yeah, man, a lot of mental, emotional stress, but I learned a lot and grew. And it's some things I'll never forget right through this journey that we're all on in crypto. So for me, I wouldn't change anything, to be honest with you.
Eric, is that a miner in the background running that I hear?
Yeah, sorry, I do have ant miners that are mining Doge and Litecoin. Yeah, I do mine crypto. Yes, I do.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
I'm going to jump in here and say, hey, thanks for your sharing your behind the scenes story there, Eric. You guys were really the first market to launch, and I know we exchanged, your team and I, we exchanged messages to help get the nodes scalable and identify bugs. And I just, thank you. I want to thank you and your team for that early involvement, because that really drove the improvements, the innovation, frustrations, of course, on all sides, but that was absolutely essential and critical. So, like, first is first. So congratulations and thank you for building on the protocol. That's remarkable. And the other was Wiz, and so thank you for the Wiz team for building out a browser extension and also building out. Between you guys were actually the first to recognize the value in the protocol and to create, and that was a lot of my efforts was around making sure I can fix things fast enough, as well as also taking in your guys' suggestions and your guys' fixes to be able to make the node actually scalable. So I want to say thank you, and it's been a very interesting and enjoyable ride, and just congrats, and nice to hear from you, Eric, about your background and story, and I mean, well done to you guys.
So
Hey,
go ahead, Eric. Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Arthur. I had never really got to kind of say that to you when we had a little differences with everything, right? And it was more like heat of the moment, passion as teams that are building, trying to help the ecosystem, right? So yeah, I got a lot of Asian Asian support as well, from devs and teams over there that were just really interested in the protocol, that would help us with bugs and things as any new protocol launches. So with that, and I thank everyone that did approach me and that worked with us to obviously build it. We see the vision and true opportunity with Atomicals and direction it's going. Loving that we build on proof of work. So with that said, again, thanks, I appreciate it, Jake.
Dude, shout out to everyone in the spaces. Also, shout out to the live streamers. At one point, we had almost 80 concurrent live streamers watching, which was almost the same from the audio. That was the most we've had, I think, in quite a long time. So a lot of interest and buzz. It's been an incredible conversation, but there's one more thing I got to ask, and this is honestly why I set up this conversation. I put it right in the header that you guys are launching an AVM on layer 1 Bitcoin. I've seen this now being populated over the last week. Arthur, what the hell is an AVM, and how are you doing this on layer 1 Bitcoin?
Oh, okay. Oh, let's talk a little bit about this. Thank you for asking. So AVM stands for Atomicals Virtual Machine, which is just a fancy, this is me trying to up my marketing game. No, but really AVM is there's the BVM, right? The Bitcoin Virtual Machine, and the Atomicals Virtual Machine is going to be my vision of what I want as a developer to be able to do for programming on Bitcoin. So it is running on L1. I have a little caveat, little asterisk here. It is running on Bitcoin, as in Bitcoin is the layer 1 that we're all building on layer 1. But Atomicals will be an interpreted system on Bitcoin. So it still follows the UTXO model. It still has the familiar digital objects, Atomicals, and ARC20. But we're adding a dimension of programmability. So not just updating data and moving coins around, but also being able to have custom rules. So the AVM is a system for defining any kind of custom rule. You think of Turing complete programming like you have on Ethereum and some of these other L2 programming environments, some of the zero knowledge stuff that's coming out now. Think of it in that dimension. And it's using L1 Bitcoin to be able to make that a reality, where we can't use the Bitcoin opcodes themselves because the native Bitcoin is too limited itself. We basically have an entire layer that allows the developer to do what they want to get done. So you can imagine creating an ARC20 token that maybe you can only earn the coin if you lock up some BTC. For example, you could have a lock to mint where you have to provably lock BTC for 10 years. For the real, the real believers out there, they could lock some amount of BTC for 10 years, and that they might be awarded some ARC20 points or token that represents their sacrifice, right? And that's an example, a very simple rule that we can code with the AVM to issue coins based on locking BTC for some time. You can even have rules for, you have to combine coins. You can imagine combining a blue and yellow to make a green coin, right? You have to burn a certain amount of, destroy some amount of coin to then get this fusion or fission model of physics, right? We like to use in Atomicals physics references. So you can create completely custom rules for the manufacture, the creation, and the transfer of NFTs. Maybe you have to hold NFTs in your wallet for some amount of time before you get some points, or before the item gets upgraded in a game. So this is what AVM will allow you to do, is to have a scripting environment that's not Solidity. It is not EVM based. It's not an Ethereum virtual machine for many good reasons, and it will never be. It's something I think that's I think it's going to surprise people. My apologies for the suspense and not sharing the details in the programming environment. It's important that I build it so I can prove to myself that it works and then release it to everyone. And I think will appreciate the approach I took. That will be completely novel to what everyone else is doing right now. As of this time, I can safely say no one else has done this or declared that they're going to do it this way. And this is a pet scientific endeavor that I've had in my mind for at least the better part of half a year, if not a year, on being able to create. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm really deep into the building out of the components in the indexer, working out just the details to make that work. And as soon as I can get that first version out to everyone, I will release it, and probably to select beta users as well, like developers and service providers. That in fact, I actually will do that, and I really appreciate any kind of development of assistance and help finding bugs and running it in the early stages, because it is a pretty big improvement, and I think it will be a pretty valuable contribution to the Bitcoin ecosystem. And who knows, maybe in the end, the AVM approach to things might actually just become a standard way to do smart contracts on Bitcoin. Or it might just be one of these protocols that competes with the others. I think we're going to find out, but I'm really, really excited to share when the time is right on how that's going to work. But I think people can guess some aspects, and yeah.
My immediate thought goes to what the guys did with e-scriptions.
I was literally just about to say that.
Yeah, by making Facet. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Are you familiar with what they're doing with Facet and e-scriptions?
Let's take a look. Facet.
No, you're not. Oh, yeah, it's similar.
I'm not.
Okay,
tell me more.
Well, maybe no. Well, you tell me more. You're the Giga Brain, man. It's probably, you might want to look at that though. What Tom's doing.
Yeah. So e-scriptions. So Tom and Michael at e-scriptions, they're in a similar position to you, where they created the e-scription protocol, and then they wanted to add smart contract like functionality and logic on top of it. After building it out, they noticed that nobody else is even pursuing it. So they said, okay, we're going to have to build this out to the vision that I believe, because the tools that exist, nobody else has really taken this approach. And so their version of an AVM is called Facet, but it's for the e-scription protocol, and it was created by the creators of the e-scription protocol.
Fascinating. I actually did see e-scriptions, and I didn't see that they've gone ahead and actually developed their own state machine. Thank you for sharing that. And this is very exciting. This is another one. I was aware of a few others, and we're going to find out. I'm going to find out if they do it the way
you're thinking of.
Yeah, definitely take a look, Adam. That's funny that she noticed that. So this is one technical question from the explanation of AVM. It kind of reminded me of DLCs, discrete log contracts, which is what Liquidity and some of these DeFi protocols use, which is kind of this like simple or dummy smart contract. It's like this: if then this happens. Do you know what DLCs are? And if you do, could you give a brief explanation of maybe the differences?
DLC. I have to ask you what the acronym means again.
Discrete log contracts. It was created by the creators of Lightning Network. They proposed it in 2018, and then it ended up finding use case with ordinals. And it's basically this it's a simple contract where you say, if X happens, then YZ kind of idea. And this is what Liquidium is using, so that you can initiate loans against your ordinal. So basically it says, hey, I'm spending, the contract that's written is this amount of Bitcoin for this loan, and then by this block height, if this amount of Bitcoin isn't paid, then this person gets the asset based off of a default or not. And it's like very simple logic. What you're building, it sounds like, is a little bit more expansive than that. So with that explanation, could you build on that?
I see. Yes, I just looked it up. Well, to me, it just looks like a smart contract, like a programming language to execute logic, right? Just to say it in the dumbest, the simplest possible way. So yes, it's just a simple way, but it says using Oracle inputs. Well, yeah, to me, the DLC looks like just like a primitive Turing machine.
Yep.
I'm not even sure if it's a full Turing machine, but it looks like it's very it's highly programmable. If this then that logic. So it looks like it's kind of structured and rigid for optimized for certain use cases. I think you mentioned some market maker functions. I think that's a useful step forward. But I want someone to be able to play a game of chess inside of an AVM contract, and then only if they do the proper moves to do a checkmate do they get coins. Like I want that kind of power and flexibility that you can do any kind of logic, not just restricted to. I'm not saying discrete log contracts are that restrictive. I can't tell right now, but it might be that restrictive. I want something completely more expressive. So you can just think of it as it's on a spectrum. We'll say that it's on the spectrum of programmability and Turing completeness is what it's on. So yeah, it's along those lines, of course, and I'm looking at Facet, and it's along those lines. It's logic that a developer can define, and then they can execute it in a deterministic way, and that the big reveal will be like how we actually do it versus some of these on a big picture level, right? There's code and it executes, and then there's a result. That's the biggest picture, but what goes into that box? Like, is it an EVM? Is it what other virtual machine? What's the instruction set look like? I think that is going to determine what developers and people like is what's in that instruction set and how useful it is. Whether it's developers prefer using DLCs or Facet or whatever other chain, I think is just to be determined. But I definitely know that the way I'm doing it has to exist. Just like Atomical itself, it has to exist. It has to be created, and just like that, it will exist.
Yeah, well, if we've taken anything from this conversation, there's some real interest in what you are building and what the community is building around the Atomicals protocol. So very, very exciting to say the least. If there's no other questions, I'll wait a few seconds and then we can close it up. What's up? We'll go to Eric and then we'll go to Wiz Wallet.
Yeah, it's actually for Wiz. I'm still getting a ton of inquiries, and if I missed this or you tweeted this or said it here, my apologies. Any updates on the merge splitting tools?
Hello. Sorry, Eric, you asked a question.
Yeah, I still get inquiries a lot on this on the splitting tools that you guys are working on, and my apologies if you posted updates or I've missed this particular update.
I'll share an update because I know the community is also eager to hear this. So the splitting you're referring to is the ability to send less than a single units of a token, like sending one Satoshi worth of some ARC20. Because right now just to bring everyone up to speed, there's the dust limit in Bitcoin, which the Bitcoin core developers put in a minimum size of a transfer of 546 Satoshis. You can't send less than 546 Satoshis worth of Bitcoin to anyone. They put that restriction in for so-called dust attacks. I'll just say that was the reason at the time. So in Bitcoin, you actually have a limitation on the Bitcoin blockchain itself. You can't send lower than 546 Satoshis. Now, this poses a problem or an opportunity, however you want to frame it, for Atomicals, because if you create a token that has Satoshis backing it, you can't send less than 546 Satoshis because of the Bitcoin limit that's imposed now. Maybe they'll remove that limit in the future. Who knows? We shouldn't count on it. So this means that you can't actually send less than 546. That means that some tokens that have a higher market cap with a less quantity of Satoshis, well, the minimum purchase or minimum transfer size is very large, right? It could be thousands or tens of thousands of dollars is the minimum amount that you can transfer. So about a month and a half ago, I came up with a proposal of a solution that would allow the resubstantiation using an exponent, like a decimal number, that would allow these UTXOs to be fractionalized. And so you could send like smaller bits, not just 546 units, but you could send like 0.5 units or point whatever number of units. And that would depend on, tagging the UTXOs with like a decimal number, which would allow this to be solved. The problem with that approach, to give everyone an update, is that then you have these UTXOs that are of a different nature, right? They're almost like you kind of lose a little bit of their fungibility, because now wallets have to mix and match the correct decimal numbers, and it's more susceptible to errors, right? That could result in burned coins. So even though the technique is elegant, I think from a programmer perspective, from a practical implementation, it poses some challenges, some problems. And so it's not so appealing. So that was put on hold, even though I've documented it. And in fact, I actually even implemented it, just so everyone knows. It took me weeks to implement it over the holidays last year, to implement it, only the final day to realize there's another way to do it. So the other way to split tokens is not to do this decimal exponent coloring of the UTXOs, but it's to actually allow fractional coloring. So for example, a 546 Satoshi output could have less than 546 units of a token. It's like a partial coloring. So it still respects the Satoshi backing, where each token is backed by at least a Satoshi. But in this case, you might have one Satoshi is colored with some ARC20 in that output, and you transfer that around. It's only worth 1, but the minimum is 546 or 7 or any number below. Now, this is a much more elegant, because you don't have these different decimals and this kind of base conversion. You could just treat everything as kind of a unit, and you could just add and divide them out and combine them. It's called the partial coloring solution. And I think it's pretty elegant, because it also helps prevent burning coins, because any leftover coins would just get slotted into the next output, and you'd have a partial coloring, and then you could easily just recover the coins that you would have accidentally burned. So there's a real advantage to this partial coloring solution. So I, by the way, I have posts for everyone on both of these approaches. Now, this, on the other hand, is it is a fundamental change, and it's just a matter of priorities. Right now, there might even be a third way, and I think there is a third way to do it, and that's actually to use the AVM itself. Once AVM is launched, it would be possible to create a synthetic coin that allows the issuance of like split tokens of some kind. So you could have like the main ARC20, and then they could be deposited into some, Atomicals contract, which would then issue the decimal or the fragments of the coin that then can behave according to their rules. This is another way this recently discovered, I think, is possible. And that would be, I think, be a pretty good elegant solution to go with like a smart contract-based approach, because once we make the decision to split the atom, so to speak, or split the atomicals with partial coloring or decimals, there's no going back. And it's not clear that it's really the right thing to do right now, and that's going to move us forward. So both approaches to the split have been put on hold for now, to address at a later point till we get more data, more market sentiment, developer sentiment, because it has tremendous developer implications. And in the end, will it actually make us compete better in this village of other protocols? I think it's questionable. So the decision I made was to just put them aside. We'll keep that as a request for comment in the community, keep thinking about it, keep understanding it, but we deliver an AVM programming model that's just awesome, right? That's what's going to matter in the end. We have a ton of, the community has created these ARC20 tokens that have a much larger supply, that this issue of needing to split them does not exist, because they are backed by many more Satoshis, that you don't actually care that you send 546 units, because that's like, we're talking like very little, right? So it doesn't really matter. So that's what I hope the community also will leverage, is that they can create, coins, or leverage the existing coins to serve in that medium of exchange role, and not worry so much about splitting for now, and let's just take our time to make the right decision, if at all. And who knows, maybe we'll find that the AVM is powerful and flexible enough that there's actually a good way to achieve it, and then we could keep the base protocol pure. Sorry, that's a really long answer for everyone. I know we're at the end, but I want to give a world tour for everyone that's listening and other people that have been following this issue. So thanks for bringing up the question.
Thanks for the answer.
That was an incredible answer. We're going to go to Wiz Wallet and then block 8245 right after.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for the space. It's awesome. I want to stress out that the community is super important. Besides, developer, researcher, educator, NFT creator, we created Depot, Atomical community, and we also proposed AIP, Atomical improvement process, and we have a couple AIPs already, and author also make some very good suggestions as well. So we call for more builder to join us. Actually, there's also an announcement. I pinned our tweet. We are going to be in Paris next weekend doing the NFT Paris. I know today we talked about Atomical a lot on the NFT, but not on the NFT. Actually, Atomical, there are also you can to do a lot of NFT stuff. The reason why this is kind of really interesting compared to EVM NFT as well as probably we don't have time to run through the detail, but come and join us next Saturday on Paris, February 25th, during the NFT Paris. We call for more community. You can be a speaker, or you can just join and then learn. So I want to meet more, and because earlier we're talking about also the West and the East, and we try to become the bridge. We're gonna some of the members coming all the way from Hong Kong to Paris, and also we have members in Europe, and we also invited some French community to come and talk. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. And if you have some friends or maybe in Europe, come join us. Yeah, thank you for the space.
Thanks, Wiz. All right, Block, you're gonna take us home here. What question you want? I know you've been eager to get on stage, so here's your shot.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. Thank you for the space. I'm coming from the community from the West. I wanna say thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything. We believe a lot on the Atomical protocol, and we believe have a lot of future. And we just want to say thank you. Thank you for real for all the job behind the state. And just to say we are here on the other side, at the West, we are Latinos. And we really love Atomical protocol. We really believe, and we really appreciate all the work you're doing. And I just want to say that. And
thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and that's what keeps me going, is that people value this and find it useful and appreciate. Really love what I'm working on. So thank you so much for that. Right? That really means a lot to me. And I want to direct back the glory to the builders with us here, from Wiz to Eric, Atomical Market, BitAtom, SatsX, and all the other NFT projects, creators, artists. I want to just shine back to them, because in the end, they are the ones that create the real value. I like to think I'm the plumber or the glue that can start, help you all create. So thank you so much for those kind words, and I want to shine that back on everyone else here. That's and the community builders, of course, the artists, and everyone that's sharing the message so that we can create value together and do something awesome. Thank you for that.
Thank you for the space, and I just wish the best for all this team. I hope so everything's going well. Thank you so much for the space.
Awesome. And also from the Emblem side as well, we've actually been approached with some interest for adding Atomical support. So that is also something that we're looking into. The idea of taking Atomicals to ETH has been an interesting idea for some people. We had a successful launch of our vault pad of taking Bell's coin assets to ETH, and that sold out immediately. And that sparked a lot of interest from a lot of builders of saying, hey, we could take Atomicals can we take Atomicals to Ethereum and put it in front of that audience, right? Because the thing here, right, it's not about blockchain tribalism. It's about meeting people where they feel most comfortable. And what we've learned through Emblem and having these type of conversations is that users want exposure to these other chains, but they don't want to have to go through the messy process sometimes of, right, as we discuss in this, figuring out the wallet, learning the ecosystem, learning, oh, there's a hack, right, or an exploit. Oh my God, now I'm turned away from the ecosystem. So that's something that, Arthur, I'll have to reach out to you about generally, just to figure out what's the right mechanism to do that in terms of who, or maybe even Eric, honestly, for figuring out what that right endpoint is for us to plug into. But yeah, we're also looking to take Atomicals across chain if there's any builders who are interested in that, or they have, interested parties on Ethereum that want exposure to it, then also reach out to us. So very, very exciting times.
Yeah, we Volume can help. We actually provide servers for other builders. Yeah, let's talk to the end.
Cool. All right, Wiz, I gave you a follow. We'll talk right after this. Really, really exciting. For those that aren't aware, Adam, myself, and Chris, we work at Emblem Vault, as I just discussed. We host these shows Tuesday through Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. We talk from every community that surrounds, ordinals, atomicals, the Escription, doginals. We ENS spaces. Yesterday we talked about cross-chain. We really cover all the different communities, ideas. There's nothing that is too far of an extension. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm talking Inscription market talk. That seems to be one of the favorite conversations, where we just talk market analysis of all the different Inscription ecosystems. I'd like to present this to Adam to take us away, man. As somebody who came into this conversation, you're aware of Atomicals, but you didn't know too much about it. What's your perspective on it now?
Well, you guys got a great leader. There's the ability to communicate vision is so important, I think, here, and Arthur really crystallized a vision that is understandable for a monkey like me, which tells me a lot of people are going to understand it and can get behind it, which I think is a big deal. Obviously, our chat's been loaded with Latin America, Asia, so people all over the globe are believing in the vision of it, and that's critical. And so, yeah, congrats to the whole community for this really exciting project. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Arthur, would you like to have any final words or anything you'd like to acknowledge as we close up?
Yes, once again, thank you all. Thank you all for being here, sharing and talking with me. I'm learning as I go and building things out based on what I think everyone wants here. And just an absolute pleasure to be here and talk to everyone. I'll say a final word. Get your realm name, claim your realm name, and update your profile. I told everyone I'm holding AVM hostage until all the major markets and wallets support sending crypto and sending ARC20 to your realm plus names. So please find your nearest marketplace and wallet and developer in this chat and beyond, and harass them until they add the ability to update your profile, your avatar, and add your crypto addresses so that we can create the realm name revolution, which actually can stand toe-to-toe with ENS and the global DNS name system that's not owned by anyone. Peer-to-peer naming has arrived, and I would really appreciate and demand, because I'm holding AVM hostage, as I'm not joking. So thank you for that last moment. I just want to plug that and to let everyone know, because it is very important. It is actually the key piece that started all this is the realm name system, and it's all going to tie in very beautifully. And that's why I want to make a final note on that. So thank you again so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be back talking with you guys, and I look forward to the future again.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Arthur. We'll do this probably sometime next quarter. And hopefully at that point, AVM is still not held hostage and everybody has integrated their realms. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time talking all inscriptions, market, and analysis. Until then, be safe and have fun.